I'm Edie Lush, and I'm here in the Hub Culture Pavilion in Davos at the World Economic Forum. Really pleased to be joined by Seth Berkley. Berkley, I got it wrong. I've lived in London too long. CEO of the GAVI Alliance. Now, you've got some big news here at Davos. Tell me that.
Well, GAVI was born here at Davos 15 years ago, and today we'll announce that we will have reached an additional 500 million children with vaccination and prevented more than 7 million deaths. And in a sense, it shows the power of a public-private partnership.
Tell me a little bit about how that's worked. What happens when you go into a country? How does that public-private partnership work?
Well, we work in the 73 poorest countries, and we actually purchase vaccines for 60% of the world's children, because there's a lot of kids in those countries. And what we do is we work with the countries pay something for vaccines. If they're very poor, they pay a little. As they get wealthier, they pay more until eventually they graduate. But also we work with vaccine companies, because we're buying so many, to drive the price down, but also bring new companies in from other areas of the world, because now we have a stable marketplace, and that's led to sometimes as much as 95% reductions in prices, which of course makes it sustainable over time.
Has the Ebola vaccine, in your experience with that, been any different from any previous vaccine?
Well, the amazing thing about Ebola, of course, we don't have a vaccine yet. What's interesting is that this vaccine was not made for Africa, even though there had been 35 outbreaks before. This was made out of fear of bioterrorism in the U.S. and wasn't taken all the way. So the interesting thing is it takes 7 to 10 years normally to take a vaccine all the way. I think we will, assuming it can still be tested, given the cases are coming down, within a year have moved it from the stage of taking it into humans into finding out whether it works. And if it works, we're prepared to take it out to the countries that need it, depending on where the epidemic is, but also creating a stockpile for future epidemics.
That lessening of time in terms of the trials and bringing it to the people who it would matter for, do you think that example and that kind of lesson that you've learned in history, will that be different now for vaccines going forward? Well,
I hope so. It's interesting. You know, I've done in my previous life many vaccine trials in the developing world and in the developed world. And, you know, the MHRA, which is the regulatory agency in the UK, gave back its regulatory approval in 4 days. Now, I can tell you in my previous thing, there hasn't been 4-day turnaround time. So it shows we can do that. We can't do it for everything. But the other thing that's interesting is this vaccine is a total market failure. There's no market for it. Nobody, these are poor people, there's not large numbers, and so in a sense the world community is stepping up to provide it, and that's important because there will be diseases that we need specific interventions in developing countries, and it's important to have mechanisms to engage on that.
Last year at Davos, no one was talking about Ebola. It hit the world by surprise. If I asked you to cast your eyes into the crystal ball, is there anything that keeps you up at night? Is there another vaccine that is needed to be worked on now that we might see in the future? You know,
Ebola wasn't not visible. I mean, there had been 35 outbreaks since it was first discovered, but this is the first time it really got out of control. You know, the thing that keeps all of us up at night is flu. I know it seems common, but in 1918, that flu pandemic killed more than 50 million people. And today we think, well, we have all the modern antibiotics, et cetera. People were dying from viral pneumonias, and if it's not treatable by the antivirals we have, it could happen again. So that's the one that matters the most, but we also need to keep thinking about new. There's been SARS and there's MERS, and, you know, new things keep popping up, and that's the thing about infections. You know, evolution really happens, and these bugs are going to continue to evolve and continue to infect us, which is why we need to have response capability.
Dr. Berkley, on that note about flu, I'll let you come out of the cold and back into the warm. Thank you so much for coming by the Hub Culture Pavilion here in Davos, and I'm
Nice to talk to you.